Welcome to the WriterDojo with your host, Steve Diamond.
Buenos dias.
And Larry Correia.
See, this time you went all.
I know. I went all dramatic.
Today's episode, Supporter Spectacular, Round 2.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Once again, thank you very much for joining Larry and I here on the WriterDojo. Today is once again another awesome day for those of you who are supporters, because today we are going to answer a whole bunch more questions. Now there is going to be one question in here that we're not even really going to answer because it's a whole freaking episode. We'll tell you when we get there.
Yeah, that was asked by. Oh yeah, you will get there.
We'll get there. The first question, and we're going to go right into this. If you need to know like what cool things you get for being a supporter, this is one of them. Refer to Q&A episode number 1, where we tell you exactly what you're going to get by being one of our supporters. The main thing of which is you get the personal knowledge of being and the satisfaction of being the person that helped lift Steve and Jack out of their day jobs so that we can join Larry at the big boy table. That's the main reason why we're doing this.
Oh gosh, everybody wants to quit the day job.
Yeah. All right. First question, Larry, and I love this question. This is from Sarah. She says, do either of you like Western novels? And if so, what is your favorite novel and why?
Absolutely.
I love this question because I adore Westerns.
I really like Westerns. I mentioned on one of our very first episodes that I grew up on Louis L'Amour.
As did I.
So if I had to pick a single one, and Steve actually talked about this earlier,
Yep.
I would actually break off a little bit, unexpected. Riley's Luck
By L'Amour.
by Louis L'Amour. I've read a lot of Westerns. Louis L'Amour is still my favorite, but he's a very pulpy guy. But he could get these moments of raw, pure emotion. The reason I like that one, and spoiler alert, even though the book's been out for like 100 years, wow, probably 80.
Nah, probably 60.
Well, no.
Maybe 80.
Yeah, this is pre-World War. Then this one's,
Ooh,
wow, we were old.
yikes.
Wow. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so this is probably close to 70 years. I say this post-war. No, so I say Riley's Luck because that's the one where the main character gets blown away partway through the book. Like halfway through the book, the main character gets killed and just totally shifts gears. And it was very, very unexpected. And I read it that first time when I was young, and it really, really struck me and stuck with me.
This isn't that old, Larry. It's only from 1970.
Oh, that's way younger than I thought.
It's only 50 years old.
So it's only 5 years older than me.
Correct.
Wow. Okay, so that's not bad.
That's not too bad. Now,
I knew it was a post-war story. I just couldn't tell when.
Oh, yeah.
Because once he got back from the war, he was cranking out books.
Mhm. Now I also love Louis L'Amour quite a bit. And if I cheat a smidge, I would say go read the Sackett's series by Louis L'Amour.
Yeah, so Steve's answer is my favorite is 18 books.
Yes. But the actual single book that I'm going to recommend to you, I'm going to say The Thicket by Joe Lansdale. Now, I don't think you've read this one.
I don't think I've read that one. No.
You should. Everyone should. It's a Western novel, and it's about a boy. Not a boy. I mean, he's a teenager basically, and his sister is kidnapped, and he enlists a couple, odd type characters to go, basically bounty hunters, to go track down his missing sister. Now, the reason I love this book so much, one, it's Joe Lansdale, so his use of the written word is bar none amazing.
Yeah, his ability to use language to paint pictures is...
It's incredible.
Yeah, he's really, really good.
But what I also like about it is a straight up Western, and yet it has a couple elements of horror in it. Because nothing supernatural, but just these strong, horrific images, this fear, the dread, and the shock. And I love it so much. Joe Lansdale is known for writing horror. He's known for writing crime. He's known for writing period pieces, and he's known for writing he just writes whatever the frick he wants because he's Joe Lansdale. So I love that book because I feel like you get this awesome sampler of all the things that make Joe Lansdale one of the best writers in the world. And it's primarily a Western novel. And it came out probably within the past 6 years. So it's new. And there aren't that many people that are writing Western novels right now.
No, not really. Yeah, the genre is kind of...
It's kind of died off, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But anyway, Yes, both Larry and I adore Westerns. And I think I don't know. I'm already telling you guys right now, there's going to be a whole episode on why we like Westerns, on how they have influenced other genres, how they mix with other genres.
Yeah, because I've
Good
only
heavens.
the only Western stuff I've written would be kind of pseudo crossover with Monster Hunter.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Bubba Shackleford. You know,
Yeah, the Weird West type stuff.
I've done Weird West.
Yeah, yeah.
Haven't done
Which
West
I
West.
love.
I'm going to read this next question.
Okay, what is this one?
This one is the one where we have an apology attached to.
Oh, sorry.
So Lynette asks.
Sorry, Lynette.
Yeah, sorry, Lynette. My question for the Writer Dojo is, how does writing for audiobooks differ from writing regular books, and do you prefer one over the other? That's going to be a whole episode. Actually, I wrote an article about this a few years ago because I was approached by Steve Feldberg from Audible, specifically because he had to teach a class to a bunch of writers about how to write different for audiobook than for regular. And Steve knew that was a question that I had thought about a lot, so the guy from Audible asked me to write up a thing about the differences. And so
It's a huge thing. Now, here's the good part, though, Lynette. You have another question on here, and it says, did Larry have a professional edit Monster Hunter International before he self-published? And if he could do it all over again, knowing what he knows now, what would he do different? And there's a last little kind of nested part in there. It says, also, how did he know it was good enough to publish? He didn't.
Okay. Yeah, so last part first, I guessed.
Yeah, it's a leap of faith at that point, guys.
And on that one, it was because I was a business guy. I knew my target market at the time was a bunch of gun nuts on the internet who I knew pretty well. I've been really active on these internet gun forums, and so I owe my whole career to knowing my target audience and giving them what they want, and they were really awesome, and they promoted it. Now, as far as professional editing, no, I did not. I had
this is a very interesting piece of a question because the answer diverges very widely based on what your end result is.
Yeah. Now, on this one, because I self-published my first novel, well, remember, I got rejected everywhere first, and then I went and had self-published. Before I self-published, I got a handful of alpha readers to read it, and it's funny because I did terrible in English class in school. Like, I barely passed any English class I ever needed to take in high school, and I barely passed in college.
To be fair, you were in Merced.
California Junior Gladiatorial Academy.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You don't read.
I was gonna say I'm not sure. I'm not sure English was a.
Oh no! I mean, only half of us spoke English.
I mean,
so we had that going for us. I mean, so right there, I was in the upper half of English that I spoke it. No, it was bad. Steve's been by my high school. Did we used to play you guys in football?
No.
Okay, no, we were too good for that.
No.
We'd crush you.
Probably.
Okay, but we were good at football. No, so I was terrible at that stuff, and so I actually had a ton of editorial mistakes, not just storytelling mistakes, but grammatical mistakes. Like, it was my first book. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know all sorts of basic things. So I had a lot of feedback. The guy that helped me the most was a guy named Bob Westover. Pirate Bob. I think Bob before and mentioned him. But Bob's background, he had done editing for academic journals for a university when he was younger. And so he edited Monster Hunter. So I gave him the printed out manuscript, and he brought it into me, and he had like 300 Post-it notes stuck in the side of it that he brought back. And he's like, well, here's a few of your problems. So now I didn't have professional editing per se, but I did have a good alpha readers that ripped me a new one.
In these days, Larry, I think what we're seeing is because there's such a high propensity for people to go the route of self-publishing, and I'm not gonna say that's wrong by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, the market's changed so much now that's super viable and often very lucrative. However, people have that in their mind, and there's so many other people out there who I'm just going to say are grifters.
Yeah.
Who are saying, hey, you need to pay professional editors. You need to pay me to tell you why your book is bad. And then if you're lucky, I will help you get published if you pay me some more money. Yeah. And I have a big problem with that.
Run away from those people. Here's the thing about the editing. If you're self-publishing, you need to be a business person and just decide what level you're going to take this to. Also, if you are going to hire an editor, do your homework first. So you don't wind up with a grifter.
Absolutely. And
the main thing you're going to look for is what else have they edited.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then go talk to those. You can contact those authors and say, "Hey, you work with so and so. How did you know, how was he to work with?"
Yep. And we're going to be, man, authors, especially if you ask us privately, we'll tell you exactly the truth.
Oh yeah, like some people are just a pain in the butt to work with. Some people suck. Some people do nothing. There's some editors out there, traditional editors, who are crap. They suck.
Oh, absolutely.
They're just horrible.
Yeah, you know,
they do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, except sexually harass people within the publishing house and then get fired.
Some of these guys, like, how did you ever have a job?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. We're trying. Once we said at the beginning of the show or beginning of this podcast, we're gonna try not to name names of people we hate, but there's some editors out there. They suck.
Yeah, they're bad.
Awful.
Well, and I think that what you need to be aware of is that if you plan on going the route of traditional publishing, like, guys, don't spend too long thinking about professional editors and hiring professional editors because, so for example, one of the very first, in fact, it might be the very first like super uber professional edit I received was from Tony Weisskopf.
Yeah.
You know, and it was the handwritten notes, as we've talked about before, and I had to look up half of them online because I had no idea what they meant.
Oh, she's a great editor. But
She's
Tony
amazing.
Communicates in hieroglyphs.
She does. And I was going through it, and here's the thing that I learned from having Tony Weisskopf, one of the best editors to ever do this. When I looked at her edits, I remember it was kind of like my mind was blown. There wasn't a lot of edits. It wasn't like she was trying to overwhelm me with like her amazingness, which I'm sure she could if she wanted to. It was more along the lines of like, look, you're doing fine. Just fix this, this, and this. And, you know, little things. And I remember looking over these notes and thinking, whoa.
A good editor.
Like these are, in general, I think most people would say these are small edits that have massive benefits and overall like tone changes and stuff like it was massive. Editors you work with are going to want to put their own spin on things. They're going to want to kind of direct you the way that best fits either the anthology you're in or their publishing house or whatever. And so don't think too hard about that stuff. Let professionals be professionals for you.
Yeah, the worst edits are the editor who takes over and makes it his artistic vision.
That's the worst.
That is awful. I hate that. I luckily don't have that.
I've experienced it though. Have you experienced that?
I've seen it in action. I've never had one.
Dude, it's the worst feeling.
Luckily got to the point in my career where if somebody tried to do that to me now, I could just
say no.
laugh.
Yeah, you're just like, no, I'm not doing
whatever. But I had to earn that. That said, I've seen some where the editor will take over and make the author rewrite the entire book in their image.
No way.
That's not a good editor. As an example, I used Jim Minns one time. He did this edit, and it was just brilliant. Where he took a little thing, he just said, "Hey, there's a suggestion." He's like, "Hey, at the end of the scene, you have this little thing happen. What if you move that to the beginning of the scene and then work backwards to establish like this sense of like this weird, dichotomy?" And Jim just made this one little suggestion to me, and it was brilliant. So brilliant. It was something that I didn't see, but looking back, it would made that scene 100 times.
Is this the
better.
cupcake scene?
Cupcake scene.
Yeah.
From Monster Hunter Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
It was the happy birthday. So it opened with this weird happy birthday thing, and then it explained how we got there, as opposed to having the scene and then having the happy birthday to me at the end. Yeah. Right? Jim was brilliant on that.
Well, Jim is brilliant.
Yeah, Jim is awesome.
I love Jim. All right. Last one before we go to break. Supporter Paul. Paul, thank you for this question. You ask, what was the stupidest thing you've ever been asked online or otherwise? Now, you and I had talked just for a sec before we went live about this, and I think we both agree that oftentimes it's the personal questions.
Yeah, guys, don't get weird with writers asking us weird, deeply personal stuff.
Yeah, don't do that.
It's weird. Don't do that.
I will tell you, I did get asked once about Residue, why I didn't have more sex in it.
Why, that's fair.
And I remember just like, what? Like, I don't know, maybe because it takes place over this, span of a week and they're too busy trying to not
Kind of
die,
busy, actually.
and
Well,
not in the sexy fun way. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, it was not that. It's just not that kind of book.
it isn't.
To me, is like the unsolicited personal stuff from people. And I understand where it comes from, because like I write a book, somebody's going to read that for like a couple days, and then so there's like they feel like we're really tight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like I'm way closer to my fans than most people, most
Right.
writers. I mean, I actually communicate with my fans a lot. I love my fans. But sometimes you guys feel like you know me a lot better than you actually do know me. And so people will ask me stuff that, like, if I was asked that by my flesh and blood, if my brother asked me this question, I would be like, what? But I get from you guys all the time some stuff where you're like asking me stuff that's none of your damn business.
Yeah.
Right? And so no, please don't get weird with writers. That's just not cool.
Yeah.
Also, for some of you, don't try to flirt with my daughter. Seriously, guys, some of you, no, don't. It's like, ooh, hey, what is wrong with you? Get some freaking class, man. When she told me that the other day, I was like, what? Yeah. So okay. So yeah, no. I know you feel close to writers, but you know me through my writing, but I don't know you, so that's just weird. Okay. All right, I think I broke Steve at that. So we're gonna go to break.
A lost colony planet, a perplexing murder, and a dog homicide cop in this Audible original story from best-selling author Larry Correia and narrated by Oliver Wyman. When the biggest colony ship in human history was sent to settle a paradise world, an accident hurtled it deep into uncharted space. 1,000 light years from Earth, with no way home and no way to call for help. The colonists' only hope for survival was the one barely habitable planet in range, a nightmare world they named Croatoan. Landing on the only 5 mountain peaks tall enough to rise above the lethal acid clouds, the settlers carved a civilization from the rock. 100 years later, 5 Points has grown into a city of corruption and violence. With powerful corporations ruling the surface domes and criminal syndicates running the caverns below, murder is just the cost of doing business. So when a special magistrate is found dissolving in a protein vat, it barely registers, until DCI Lutero Cade, the last honest cop in 5 Points, catches the case. What he finds could threaten the colony's very existence, or at the very least, Cade himself. Lost Planet Homicide will be available on Audible on October 21st, 2021, and will be free with an Audible Plus subscription.
And we're back.
I spent the entire break laughing at the thought of some poor fool, sliding into Larry's daughter's DMs.
She'll kill you.
Like,
she'll shoot you.
Like, you guys realize she has concealed carry, right?
Have some class, people.
And we're in Utah. We got constitutional carry. It don't matter anymore.
My gosh.
Good night.
Carrie's a sig, man. She'll drop you. It'll be weird.
So funny.
Be cool, people.
That's so great.
All right. We have some more questions.
All right. Okay, Aaron. Supporter Aaron, thank you very much. You are asking, and you'll recognize the phrase here in just a sec. What are Steve and Larry's best uses of rule of cool in a story? Or at least what you think their best use is. So Larry and I often say, that's a phrase we use a lot, the rule of cool. Now, we tend to use it a little bit more often when it comes to like role-playing games and stuff. But in fiction, Larry, rule of cool. Where have you used rule of cool?
Well, to me, that's where he's just like, you're cool is not maybe the most sensible thing for this scene, but it's the most awesome thing for this scene. I'd say the final battle of hard magic.
Yeah,
As I describe it, teleporting magic ninja fight on top of a flaming pirate dirigible.
Yeah.
And it's just nuts. And so I rolled every single wacky, cool, crazy pulp thing, sky pirates and mobsters and Tesla death rays, and I shoved it all into one thing because it was awesome.
For me, my favorite use of rule of cool, and it's not practical in the slightest, but this is me getting, I guess, revenge on lingering PTSD from high school. And that's in residue when I murder an entire prom.
Oh yeah, when you murdered the prom.
So I remember
Oh gosh.
I was writing this at a writer's retreat, and Dan Wells, a mutual acquaintance of ours, Dan Wells is sitting across from me. At this time, he was actually standing for reasons I'm not going to go into. So he was across from me, and he was writing, and I'm writing, and you got to understand, I was having a bad writing day, and I've talked about in the past when I do writing retreats, like I'm going hard the whole time.
Yeah, you're like writing 30,000 words.
30 to 40,000 words in a week. Yeah. Okay, just to get crap done. And I was having a bad day. I think up until that scene, I'd written maybe 2,000 words. And I was like getting mad at myself. And then I got to this scene where I murder an entire prom and then all of the aftermath that happens, from that point on. That whole segment is probably 5,000 words, 6,000 words. Mm-hmm. I wrote it in like 3 hours. Yeah. Like I was flying. But I'm writing this and I don't even realize what I'm doing. But I look up because Dan makes a noise, and I look up and he's just staring at me, and he's like starting to laugh.
Are you giggling?
And I said, what do you mean? He goes, what on earth are you writing that you're laughing so much? And I just looked at him and I said, well, I just killed an entire prom. I mean, again, look, it's not practical. The things that happen in that scene, and I'm not going to spoil the scene. Go buy the book and read it. It's fantastic. But it's, as Larry says, it's the best prom scene since Carrie.
Yep.
Man, I kill a lot of people in that scene. So much so that, like, in reality, if something like that happened, like the entire federal government would come down upon it, be completely inept, but then try to solve it and still be completely inept. And then the FBI would come and things would get worse. But it would be a whole thing. It'd be on the national news. It'd be on the world news. It'd be on the news for years.
That's what we say. When we say rule of cool, it's primarily that comes from role-playing games. That's where you have like the official rules of the setting, but somebody wants to do something that's like awesome, but the rules don't really allow for it. And as a GM, I'm like, well, I always do rule of cool. So if what we want to do is cooler than the rules, we toss the rules and just do it.
Yep.
That's kind of how it is for books too, though.
Yep.
Honestly, like you've got your established rules, but you got something more awesome. Go for it.
All right. So Porter Cat asks, I've been trying to write my first novel for quite some time now, but I keep running into the same problem every time I try. How do you figure out or decide what happens between the major events in a novel or story? How do you decide what goes in between, or how do you decide what is going to be interesting and not too mundane to get the story from point A to point B? It's a huge question that we'll get into more in depth. So Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, actually, we're going to do an episode about pacing.
Yeah, because that's largely what this involves is pacing.
Yeah, and we talked about before the old Elmore Leonard quote, "Don't write the parts people skim." Yeah. Basically, it's also going to depend on what kind of genre you write. Because if you're Robert Jordan, then you're going to write the whole dang boring thing.
Brandon Sanderson's novels these days, especially his Stormlight series, they're like 350,000 words or something like that. And if Larry and I were writing that stuff, we'd probably cut 100,000 words out of that without even blinking.
Yeah. So one time David Weber, because David Weber's the same way. David Weber writes very, very in-depth, deep. Like he goes into like a lot of minutia. And I don't. I'm a terse writer. I'm just boom, boom, boom.
As am I, as you know now.
Yeah. Editing Steve was like, we need to be less terse. Well, David Weber said about me, he's like, he was talking about me and him together working on something. He goes, yeah, David Weber will never use 5 words when 10 will do. Larry Correia will never use 5 words when 1 will do.
Right.
And so it just kind of depends on your nature and how you write. So some things are going to be a little more languid. One of the best critiques I ever got for Son of the Black Sword is this is an epic fantasy, but it's paced like a thriller. It's not paced like
great.
A thriller, which to me was a compliment. I don't like reading the languid dinner party where they describe every single morsel of rabbit. I don't give a crap. Or, much as I love Tolkien, I don't care about the trees, okay?
No.
They don't matter to me. I don't care.
And I think a lot of this comes down to what's the point of those scenes that are in between. So Yeah, look, we all like writing the big action set pieces. I know I love it. I know you love it. But not everything is that big action set piece. But also stop thinking that everything needs to be that way.
Yeah. Those in between scenes, they're going to give you one thing is we're going to talk about pacing, but they'll take your pace up and down. We'll vary the pace. But also every scene is a chance to grow the story. It's to world build. It's to build character.
Yep.
It's to give a chance for people to have interaction. This is where you can build up, your character backstory, your love story, your whatever. It's the things to make your world feel more real. If you have an opportunity to do that and it's not boring, that's the main thing. If it's interesting and it builds your world, then by golly, that scene is useful. But don't have scenes that don't matter.
Yeah.
If you have a scene where literally nothing changes and you don't really learn or grow or
Then there's no point for that
no
scene to
point.
exist.
It's just filler.
Mm-hmm.
And filler is awful.
Yeah. All right, let's see. What's the next one here? Here we go. I like this one, Larry. This is from Brian. Brian asks, I've been watching Midnight Mass on Netflix, and I'm not quite sure if the writers intended a message behind the story, but I think they did, which leads me to wonder how a writer communicates their message without losing other elements of the story. Now, caveat, we haven't seen that show yet.
I haven't seen it. Yeah, I haven't.
However, the general gist of the question here is important, and I like it. The idea of messaging. Now, I'm going to choose to mean like in terms of like messages in terms of themes and things like that,
Yeah.
rather than message fiction.
Yeah, because I have a reputation of being anti-message fiction.
As I'm very anti-message fiction.
Well, the thing is about that, I like what Jim Butcher had to say about this. Never preach. I'm trying to remember how Jim said this. Jim is more eloquent than I am, but it was never preach harder than you can entertain.
Yep.
And that's what it comes down to. If you can get all sorts of message squeezed into a story, if you do it in a way that's conducive to the story and it makes sense and it's entertaining. The problem with message is a lot of times message just comes out and message is what matters, not the story. And message comes out and just beats you over the head with it.
Yeah.
And it's not entertaining, and it's just you're getting preached at. It's an after-school special about special topic X.
Yep.
And everyone hates that, and it sucks.
Now, the reverse is also problematic, and that's where, say I'm writing a horror story, and I believe we talked about this in the genre episode, Larry, where when you start out your story, you are making certain commitments and promises to the reader, right? You're giving them some expectations.
Yeah, you're setting some ideas.
So if I'm writing a horror story, as I often do, and yet 5 seconds in and it pervades through the entire thing, it's just straight up romance. The theme of my horror story, of the overarching theme, is completely lost.
Yeah.
And that pisses people off to no end.
It does. The thing is, I joked about this a lot. I refer to it as dying polar bear fiction, where it's like I can't. For the longest time there wasn't a sci-fi story out there that wasn't about global warming.
Yep, I remember.
I'm sorry, climate change. So we refer to it as dying polar bears. Everything was flipping dying polar bears, and it's like, we must have this action movie about how we must do this and this, and it's because of climate change. And it's like, oh, come on, man. It's like, believe in it, don't believe in it. I don't give a crap. It doesn't matter. Just quit beating me over the head with special topic X.
And here's the thing. I have my own opinions on that. I was reading a book by Michael Crichton called State of Fear.
Yeah.
He message fiction beats you the opposite way of how terrible and horrible and how idiots everyone is for even believing in it. And regardless of what side of the spectrum you're on in believing that, or somewhere in the middle or not at all, whatever, it's bad either way.
Yep. That's the thing. As it goes back to Jim Butcher saying, don't preach hurting your team. Because I've also seen movies that have dying polar bear fiction in it, but it's well done because the story has come first, and then the message is gently put in with it.
Yeah, I don't mind if specific messages, speaking of like messagey fictiony type stuff, I don't care if that's in there.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen Midnight Mass, so I have zero idea.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
What it is, or if it's well done or not. I have
It
no
seems
idea.
like I think it has to do about. I think there's a
religious-
religious bent to it,
Yeah,
but
I don't
also supernatural horror.
Oh.
So
I'm
I
surprised
mean,
you haven't watched it. Yet, actually. That's right up your alley.
yeah, I've been slammed.
Mister, I work 120
I
hours a week.
know, and my shoulder's broken. So I understand though. You know this. You don't want to beat people over the head with it. But you do want to make sure that they get some of what your intent is.
Yeah.
But man, like a lot of things, I think that just comes to practice and running it by people who you trust.
Well, it's a practice thing. It's a skilled hand.
Yeah.
The bad thing is the message fic that people do that they because it's this message that is now in the forefront and it is everything. And if people don't like the entertainment product anymore, then they complain it's because you hate the message. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's like anyone who complains about any Wonder Woman movie. It's because you hate women.
You hate strong. Me and you in the last episode, we just went off about how amazing Aliens is for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, about how Ripley's one of the greatest written characters of all time.
Fantastic.
You know?
One of my favorites.
But I didn't like Captain Marvel, so I must hate strong women. Or I didn't like Rey Palpatine Skywalker.
I mean,
You see what I mean? So that's what I'm getting at. Is message is one of those things. There's nothing wrong with message in your fiction, but you just have to have it as part of your fiction. You don't just cloyingly shove it in the reader's face, because then the only people that are going to like your story are the people that are really into that topic.
yeah. Well, why limit your fan base?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
again, the whole point, the thing that Larry and I have said right from the beginning is that the goal of this is to give you advice so that you feel comfortable going out and doing what you want to do so that you can get paid.
Yeah.
And you know what the best way to get paid is to appeal to a broader audience. That's what it is.
Crazy.
All right. Supporter Matthew asks, a friend in publishing highly advises that a strong online presence, author website, all the yada, 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 is crucial to building a writing career. And then he says, my instinct is that when one has limited writing hours, producing the best books possible takes priority. What are our thoughts? I agree with that, actually.
Yeah, I would say writing a good book takes priority. I've seen a lot of people try to, like, I have really good web presence as far as authors go, and I've seen people try to copy that, but if the product at the end isn't, if the juice ain't worth the squeeze, they ain't coming back. It doesn't matter how many followers you have on Facebook or Twitter or your blog or whatever.
Yeah.
If the product isn't that good, I mean, the product's got to come first.
Yep. I'm not going to add anything because I agree completely.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, web presence is great because it does help you sell books, but if you're not that good, you're not that good.
Well, I mean, I'm in that situation right now. I can either spend, a couple hours blogging, or I can spend a couple hours, editing Servants of War.
Yeah.
And which one of those is more important, Larry?
One of those is going to pay you a lot more.
One of those is paying me, and one of those is what's going to build a fan base that will eventually care about an online presence that I don't have right now.
See, and I have an online presence because it's honestly kind of part of my personality anyway. Or I should say I built it. I've built my online presence based upon my combative personality, and I have a very large, loud personality in real life anyway. And so that's just a natural extension. Though, as I've gotten older and social media has gotten dumber and more rigged, I've cared for it less and less.
Yeah. All right, the last question, Larry, and we're going to apologize in advance. I'm sorry, Rick.
Another full episode question.
You know what? I think this is R. Kelly from one of the last sessions.
Oh.
So I'm just putting. I'm a detective sometimes, Larry. I can put things together. I'm pretty sure. Rick, R. Kelly.
Well, we don't have that many supporters yet.
We really don't. But you can change that, listeners. You can change that. Just think, for $1 a month, you can help
We're gonna put a Sarah McLachlan song on now. You can support him.
Oh no.
Help Steve quit his
Help
day
Steve get it out of his day job. Help producer Jack become producer self-employed Jack. Okay, Rick asks, what are your favorite fight scenes that you've written? Now, we can talk about our favorite fight scenes that we've done. And I know I have favorites of yours, and I know you have favorites of mine, and we have favorites from other books. But goodness, fighting and action is like, you know, I have my thing, and my thing is like horror stuff. Larry has his thing. His thing is action stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's known as the action dude.
Yeah, I actually do have as far as in the writing community, I have like a rep.
You have a rep.
Yeah.
And so here's what I want to do with that, Larry. I want to punt that question, and it's obviously it's going to be its own topic.
Yeah, we're gonna do
writing action scenes.
Writing action scenes is probably gonna be a two-parter too.
Oh, or just a giant jumbo episode or
because
something.
I do a 1 hour class at cons, and writing things. That's usually what I get asked to do.
Yep.
They'll have me do
Every time you're on that panel, every single panel or every single con.
Yeah, I'm kind of typecast, which is good though, because I have a rep as being the action guy. I know a lot of tricks.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, a lot of the ones that I've learned from you because I've read your stuff and we've talked about it so often.
Yeah, so Rick, apologies today, but yeah, we were going to revisit that with a couple episodes.
So, to be continued on that one. It's like when you were watching old episodes of shows and you were like 5 minutes away from the end. I think Jerry Seinfeld has a skit about this. You're like 5 minutes from the end and you're like, there's no way. They can't wrap this all up. There's no freaking way.
I'll say that's the worst thing about audiobooks and ebooks versus physical books is when I do have a cliffhanger ending and people like, because in the audiobook or the ebook, all of a sudden it's end.
Yeah.
Right? And this has been an audible production.
And you're like, no!
What? Whereas the physical book, as we're getting to the end, they actually have that warning
what are we doing?
that I'm not going to answer all the questions.
So, just imagine this is an episode of 90s Star Trek Next Generation, and you're at the end of the season, and the big dreaded words come up, Rick, that say, to be continued.
There's 4 lights!
That's all we got time for, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.
WriterDojo is Steve Diamond and Larry Correia. Produced by Jack Wilder and Baron Hare Studios. Theme song, Word Mercenaries by Craig Nivo. New episodes come out every Wednesday wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/WriterDojo, by leaving us a 5-star rating or review, and by helping to spread the word. All questions and comments can be emailed to questions@writerdojo.com.
I think I broke Steve.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, it's weird.